Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely unravel a bizarre historical mystery about literally the most ordinary thing you are going to do tonight. We're looking into why, for an enormous chunk of human history, our ancestors actively avoided sleeping lying flat. Instead, they chose to sleep propped up, folded, or even entirely sitting up. It's a fascinating story, and I promise it's going to make you look at your bedroom completely differently. Okay, let's dive right into this by contrasting what we assume perfect sleep is against historical reality. Just think about your typical modern mattress ad. You're lying totally flat on your back, your spine is straight, arms are out, and you are completely and gloriously unconscious. We are trained by every hotel and every memory foam commercial to believe this is the only natural way for human to power down. But if you describe that setup to someone from 400 years ago, they'd think you'd lost your mind. Historically, lying fully flat just wasn't the default. Millions of our ancestors slept propped up, wedged into short boxes, or reclined against bolsters at angles that would absolutely wreck a modern neck. So, that begs the question, right? If the flat horizontal sprawl is actually a modern luxury, is it even the natural way to sleep? Let's treat this like a historical detective story and look at the clues left behind. Section 1. The Short Bed Mystery. If you've ever wandered through a preserved historic house museum, you've probably noticed that the beds are disturbingly short. The absolute most common tourist reaction is, wow, people back then were just tiny. It's a fun, simple explanation that gets repeated everywhere. People were smaller, so the beds were smaller. Case closed. We just needed shorter blankets, right? Well, not exactly. Actually, scratch that. Skeletal evidence proves that the whole tiny human theory is entirely false. Medieval adults were roughly our size. They wouldn't fit lying flat in those beds any better than you or I would. Instead, from the 1500s all the way through the 1700s, wealthy households were deliberately building beds for sitting up. People built literal ramps out of firm cushions called bolsters, folding themselves into these shorter frames.
Section 2. Why sit up in bed?
It turns out there are three completely logical reasons that turned upright sleep into a literal survival strategy and a major social flex. First up is health. Back before antibiotics, respiratory illnesses were massive killers. Sitting up clears the airways so you don't literally drown in your own fluids. Second is the environment. Think about an open hearth in an old home. You've got a freezing floor below you and a horribly smoky ceiling above you. Sitting up kept your head in the perfect breathable middle zone. And finally, status. Over in the French court, reclining on a towering mountain of pillows proved you were dignified. Lying flat? Well, that was just for the dead and the terribly poor.
Section 3. A global sleeping phenomenon. Now, we really have to expand our scope here, because this wasn't just some quirky, damp European fashion trend. Completely disconnected cultures across the globe universally avoided the flat sprawl. In rural Celtic regions, whole families would fold themselves into enclosed wooden box beds called the lit close to trap body heat and keep wolves out. In ancient Egypt, they didn't even use fluffy pillows. They used carved stone headrests to elevate and cradle the neck. And across the African continent and the Pacific, similar headrests maintained airflow and protected really elaborate hairstyles. Across thousands of years, humans everywhere were picking something upright.
Section 4. The Forgotten Two Sleeps. To really understand why, we have to peel back another layer and look past the physical beds to the actual shape of the historical night itself. Back in 2005, historian Roger Eckertz dropped an absolute bombshell in sleep research. By digging through old diaries and court records, he found that before artificial lighting, humanity didn't sleep in one solid 8-hour block. We slept in two. You'd have your first sleep just after dark, wake up naturally around midnight, and then have this calm, wakeful period. And here's the wild part. Nobody panicked about waking up. People use this time to pray, tend to the fire, or just chat with their neighbors. Then, after an hour or two, they drift peacefully into their second sleep until dawn. And modern science totally backs this up. In the 1990s, researcher Thomas Ware did an experiment where he plunged modern subjects into 14 hours of daily darkness for a month, basically mimicking winter before electric lights. Amazingly, their modern brains spontaneously rediscovered the exact same segmented two-sleep pattern that Eckertz found in those old diaries. During that midnight wakeful period, subjects actually experienced elevated levels of prolactin, which is a hormone linked to peaceful, dreamy contentment. Electric light simply papered over what our bodies naturally want to do. Section 5. The Primal Need for Safety. Now let's go all the way back, way past the kings and the box beds, to the deepest evolutionary truth. A groundbreaking 2015 UCLA study looked at modern hunter-gatherer societies living completely without artificial light, like the Hadza in Tanzania. And this study demolished our modern sleep myths. These groups do not sleep for an uninterrupted 8 hours. They actually average about 6.5 hours a night, and they certainly don't just pass out the second the sun goes down. They stay up long into the dark. So, the absolutely crucial point here is that they almost always sleep around a fire. If you've ever gone camping, you know you don't just lay completely flat and sprawl out next to the flames. You naturally assume a watchful, semi-upright posture. You sit, you lean, you arrange your body to stay warm on one side, dodge the shifting smoke, and stay just alert enough to keep that fire fed.
This reveals the oldest, most primal explanation of all: pure safety. For almost the entire span of human existence, switching off your brain and sprawling flat meant becoming, biologically speaking, slow meat in an open world filled with things that wanted to eat you. Lying flat on your back with your limbs splayed out is a position of total physical surrender. It is an evolutionary luxury you can only afford when you are absolutely certain nothing is hunting you in the dark. A propped-up body means you are a half-second closer to standing, running, or fighting.
Because early humans couldn't afford a flat, dead-to-the-world sleep, our survival relied on light, communal, propped-up resting. And this naturally created what researchers call an accidental sentinel system. Because human groups are made up of different ages, people just naturally drift in and out of sleep at different times. The older members stir early, the younger ones stay up late. Without needing any sort of formal guard roster, the whole group is almost never completely unconscious at once. Someone is always awake, watching the dark. Seriously, it's why you might be a night owl while your partner's an early bird. It's a deeply ingrained ancient survival mechanism. Section 6. Our bizarre modern luxury.
Let's bring this all the way back to the quiet, dark room you'll sleep in tonight. When you lock your door, turn off the lights, and lie completely flat on your mattress, you should know that you are participating in a brand new, historically bizarre experiment in human evolution. Trusting the dark entirely is an evolutionary anomaly. It's something we literally just started doing, evolutionarily speaking. We can only afford this deep, flat, 8-hour unconsciousness because we've built thick walls, strong locks, and basically engineered a tame world.
We've traded the communal fire, the box beds, and the watchful, propped-up sleep for completely isolated safety. But this leaves us with one incredibly profound mystery to ponder tonight. If physical comfort wasn't the main driver that finally got us to lay down flat, what was the one specific invention that truly changed what darkness even means to our species? What allowed us to finally close our eyes and fully let go? Think about that tonight. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, sleep well.